Welcome to the Pulse with Peter B. I'm your host, Peter Biancamano. Let's get you to the pulse on everything you need to know. And today we have a Pulse premiere, and I absolutely love Pulse premieres, as you know. And we have another MMA industry insider, as well as the executive producer. You know, I'm the executive producer of this show, but you make it look so much better, Cody. And the executive producer of the Anik and Florian podcast, which is Cody Marrow. Cody, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Peter, thanks for having me. I think we've been planning this for a long time. We met almost a year ago and at an MMA event, so I think it's exciting that we bring it full circle, and we're here on the pier with this great view. I'm excited to talk about Fight Island.
Boy, you could tell he's an executive producer because he just took the first couple of questions and comments I had right out of my mouth there. I kind of like that, Cody. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Let's talk about the podcast first, because this is relatively new from what I understand. I'm sure it's very, very popular, as one might think, because the MMA was the first sport to kind of say, hey, look, we're going to our own private island and starting and keep doing our shows and things like that. How's the podcast going?
Oh, it's been going great. I mean, we've been really excited actually to be able to bring that insider content. John Anik, commentator of the UFC, Kenny Florian, former MMA legend. They really bring a lot of the inside sources. They have the numbers of people. They can text them. They can talk to them. And what we've actually been able to do is bring in fans in a real nice digital live environment, because we created a new show called Remember the Show, which stars Bilal Muhammad. That takes place Thursdays every night, 8:30 p.m. Make sure you tune in live.
Oof.
We give everybody the best
We'll
inside knowledge
into
everything that people can expect to see week to week. We like to involve people. Last week we had CM Punk on there, so we really try and give fans an inside look. But thank you for asking about the podcast. I hope everyone can check out the Anik and Florian podcast. And Peter, I mean, maybe sometime we need to have you on. You're kind of becoming an MMA insider yourself.
Apparently so. Between you and Matt Davies, I mean, it is an awesome sport to watch, because who doesn't like a couple of guys or women beating the crap out of each other to a bloody pulp, right? I mean, and then shaking hands at the end of it. I mean, you wish that politics could be like this. We'll get to that next segment. Who cares about that? Anything that Josh talks about, we don't really care about, Cody, just so you know going forward. But anyway, so, okay, so let's talk about Fight Island a little. So it's so interesting because I touched on this before. I mean, what the UFC did was they were kind of the hybrid model that other sports looked at. They were like, look, we're going to go in a bubble, but we're not going in a bubble. We're going to an island right now, you know? And you and I were talking off camera about this just before the show, but I was just wondering if you can go over, so the audience knows, some of the testing capabilities that they do there, as well as how they kind of have the fighters isolated.
Sure. So Fight Island, you're looking at a 10 square mile radius that the country of Abu Dhabi has really just quarantined out for the entire UFC to use. Now, what does that entail? That's 5 events that we're looking at over the next 5 weeks, 61 fights. 350 fighters and coaches at minimum are going to be there on site to go through all the testing, all the rigmarole, everything that leads into these fights. Now, if you do the simple math, a lot of people are going to be tested 5, maybe 6 times during the week. That's over 1,750 tests, not including anybody from the UFC, any of the media, any of the production elements. And Peter, something I know you'll love, everyone that's there as staff as Abu Dhabi, they're being tested every 2 hours. So you're looking at an incredibly finite amount of testing going on to make sure this is not only a very sterile environment, but something, as you said, that other sports can use as kind of a model to be sure that they're not running into pitfalls like Major League Baseball was with a lot of their quarantine protocols.
So that's interesting. And a question that comes to mind right away is, what if a fighter or a staff member does test positive? Do they kick them off the island? Do they ship them back to, like, Dubai?
Right. So that's where it becomes interesting. They have 4 chartered flights from hub cities that take place for each of these events. Mm-hmm. So they get tested before they're even on the flight, and then they have to quarantine prior to make sure that those tests are coming back positive or negative in this case. So where that really becomes intricate is, you know, you're having people swapping in and out, in and out, in and out. It's not the same fighters every week. So there's a lot of logistics that goes into this, a lot of money being spent really by the UFC, but it's all to really give that great product and give everything to the fans of MMA.
Very, very interesting. Now, the podcast. So, Mr. Anik, he's down at Fight Island, correct? So, the time difference is what, like 13 hours or something?
It's about 8 hours, but
still, it's only 8 hours.
And you bring up a good point, because I was actually able to FaceTime John Anik, and the W Hotel that they're staying in Abu Dhabi, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's one of the best pieces of hospitality that I've ever seen in my life. And I was actually able to speak to a fighter and coach from the last Fight Island event to kind of get an inside scoop. You know, what can people expect? What do I need to worry about if I'm a fighter or coach going there? And Tyson Chartier, who's the head coach for Calvin Cater, gave me some little inside info. So the number one thing that he said that you touched upon is that timing, because you're fighting on U.S. time, but all of your obligations are on Abu Dhabi time. So you're looking at that 8-hour difference and trying to think, how do I schedule? How do I make sure that I'm hitting my peak fighting shape when I'm entering the octagon, which local time, that's going to be 3, 4 in the morning.
Right.
But you have interviews the day prior during the day to kind of adhere to that schedule. So there's a lot of planning that goes into it, and I think a lot of people underestimate just how much that can impact you on fight night.
And let's talk about those fights. Last night was another great fight night. I mean, but you hit the nail on the head. 3, 4 in the morning, these guys have to be prepared for fights. So you wonder if they're still on United States time, just to try to like motivate themselves and so on and so forth, because they want to stay in prime time here.
And that was actually some insight that John gave me, because he's there to commentate for this first event and then for the last event at the end of the month. So he's not adhering to the Abu Dhabi time. He's staying on U.S. time. Like I said, I FaceTimed him. It was 3 in the morning there. It was just fine for me. I was awake. But just to show you the kind of
it was 7 at night here.
Well, and it's a physical change you have to make, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to be prepared for that moment. You only get once.
Exactly. Now, how much? How many media personnel do they have there right now?
So they're able to fly out, I believe, somewhere in like the 20 to 30 range as far as domestic. And then obviously you have all of the people in the Middle East there that are covering the sport. Abu Dhabi's fronting this huge bill to really bring up the sport in the region. And you're really seeing that with talent kind of flush through. But they're really taking a lot of this, as I said, bill and making sure everyone's put up there, adhering to the same protocols. It's a very costly thing. You and I can't just go buy a vacation on Yas Island.
No,
it's a very expensive thing.
Well,
so
you can, but maybe not me. Sorry, Cody, I had to throw that. But also it's they've been there away from, like you said, they're bringing families in and out of there, but I'm sure that there's personnel and media members who have been down there the last few months and are going to continue to be. When is the end date of the fights on Fight Island?
So that's an interesting question, because they have a relationship with Abu Dhabi that's going to keep bringing them back. So you have at the end of this month Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Justin Gaethje taking off, and that fight is incredibly important in the Middle East because Khabib is a devout Muslim. He's very important in that culture. So that's something that they're going to try and continue over this, and it was just great that Fight Island was able to take that expense and be able to put up them during this COVID-19 crisis. But they're going to continue to go back, maybe not in the same bubble kind of aspects, but Abu Dhabi and Fight Island, hey, maybe we can find our way out there sometime.
I'm down. I was actually there last year, and it was gorgeous. I went for vacation to Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and I like Abu Dhabi much better than I like Dubai, but not to Yas Island. I guess we have to. All right, so we have some fights coming up. What are you looking forward to in the next few weeks, and any early predictions and so on?
So as I said, Justin Gaethje versus Khabib Nurmagomedov is going to be absolutely incredible, but the really incredible part about that is the UFC recently signed Michael Chandler, who was the Bellator lightweight champion.
Of course.
And he is now serving as the backup. So this has never happened before. Someone's coming in as a replacement fighter, possibly, who has never fought in the UFC before. So there's a lot of storylines going into that. The week prior, we have Marlon Moraes versus Corey Sandhagen, which is a very interesting fight. Marlon Moraes used to train here in New Jersey, so there's a little bit of local feed there for you Pulse fans. And that's a fight I'm really excited for, because my personal friend Aljamain Sterling, he should be fighting for the title next against Peter Yan. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that there's an announcement of that coming soon.
All right. Well, Cody Marrow, so glad you're invited to come back anytime you want.
Oh, well, I appreciate that, Peter.
I mean, and I want to see you here back, okay?
Right,
Maybe
of
we'll
course.
do a little segment between you and Matt. We'll set up an octagon. You guys can both punch me in the stomach or something like that.
Yeah, great. Well, we'll go to Hudson Hall as you did on your last shoot. We'll have a couple of beers and we'll cheers to some great successes.
And he comes on the show prepared. Executive producer of the Anik and Florian podcast. Tune in every Thursday night, 8:30 p.m. You said?
8:30 p.m.
8:30 p.m. You're not going to want to miss it. With that type of knowledge, why wouldn't you want to watch it? Cody, thank you so much again. Folks, we will be right back. Peter Biancamano, your hostess with the mostest of the Pulse with Peter B. Folks, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at the Pulse with Peter B, and make sure you like and follow us on there. We're constantly updating that page with new information. And also on Instagram, for all you grammars out there, make sure you follow us there as well. We're constantly putting these really cool stories, previewing all of our episodes. And if you don't want to DM us through our Instagram or message us through our Facebook, you can always email us. And that's at thepulsewithpeterb@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you. Peter Biancamano, your hostess with the mostest of the Post with Peter B. Folks, we have reached our 2-year anniversary on next week's show. You're not going to want to miss it. We're going back to our original graphics. It's going to be the Pulse going retro, baby. Original graphics, original theme song, and even some of our original guests who are on our very first show. You're not going to want to miss it. I couldn't be any more proud of where we've come from. Tune in next week for the Pulse's 2-year anniversary.
Welcome back to The Pulse. This is Cheryl Fallick, and I'm here with Josh, and we're going to discuss a little bit about housing in Hoboken during this section.
Well, it's good to be here with you. I'm glad that you're hosting today. Much better than the regular host of the show.
Well,
I cannot tell you how much better.
It'll be a little different. So Josh, you have any thoughts on how, what's going on in the world today might be impacting what's going on in Hoboken's housing market? And do you watch it? Do you have any thoughts?
Well, from what I've heard, and it is all anecdotal, there seems to be at least a small or significant, that's up for debate, but there seems to be an exodus from urban areas, definitely from that small town across the river, and from what I hear, there seems to be an exodus as well from Hoboken, that there's less people coming in, and then we have the normal seasonal move out, plus an extra number of people that are moving out. If you'd been if we've all been on lockdown to varying degrees, so the allure of living in some place where you can walk to the corner store doesn't really matter when the corner store, the restaurant, the bar, the movie theater is closed.
And everything else is closed. Yeah. See, what I've seen, and I do have a real estate license, that the buying and selling market is still holding pretty well. There's a little bit of softening, but there's certainly more product on the market. But I am definitely concerned about the rental market in Hoboken, and I'm concerned about what appears to be a very high vacancy rate. And
well, I've heard from a friend who is a small building owner. Maybe there's 6 to 8 units, and this friend is having problems like they've never had before in terms of filling the units.
Mm-hmm.
And then this friend also told me about others in similar circumstances that own even bigger buildings in town. So hopefully it is, like you said, like you're talking from your knowledge from the industry, hopefully it's just a small blip above and we can come back to normal. But in the long term, if that continues, it'll be bad for Hoboken. But for me as a renter, it'll be good.
Well, certainly renters seem to be a little bit more in the driver's seat in terms of negotiating prices. I also do think that a lot of renters are afraid to pull the trigger and move in. They don't really know what their future employment is going to be like. But I do worry about a high vacancy rate, because when buildings start to get warehoused, what that sort of often leads to is buildings being sold, buildings being torn down, and replaced with something that is, contributing to less economic diversity in Hoboken, which is, as you know, a concern for me. I like to see all sorts of people in a community, and, the renter population seems to be kind of divided between long-term residents like myself, I'm a renter, and then young folks coming in, starting out, and not necessarily knowing if they're going to lay their roots here or not. But I always think a certain portion of them do. And if you're basically leaving a building that's largely empty except for a long-time tenant, often that tenant gets pushed out. And if new folks aren't coming in, new younger folks, single folks, whatever, again, that's sort of an invitation to, hey, developers, come in, buy it, tear it down. So.
Well, I mean, listen, I don't know where I fall on the spectrum. I've only been in town 13 years. I came here.
Newish.
Newish? Oh, I thought. All right. Can I be youngish as well? Even
Yes,
though I'm 38?
yes.
Hashtag winning. But I definitely think that there's definitely an attitude from City Hall when it comes to catering towards different populations. And I think that out of City Hall, the only population that seems to be of concern, or at least primary concern, is what I affectionately call the stroller brigade. Now, if you got kids, I don't dislike you. I think your kids are cute, probably smelly when they poop, but still cute, right? But City Hall shouldn't just cater to one demographic as they often do.
We are so on the same page there. I think it's actually not healthy for our community. And I would also, and you and I have had conversations where I've said to you, and I think you agree, that I really wish when it comes to the renter population, they had at least as much importance as bike lanes. You know, they don't get a lot of attention. I agree with you, kids are adorable. Everybody's poop stinks, so it doesn't matter, children or adults.
Well, speaking of bike lanes, if I could just interject, I saw again recently on Councilman Phil Cohen's official councilman Facebook page, some sort of bromide about how we need to put in concrete barriers on Washington Street, like the original Washington Street destruction plan called for, and he made the assertion in the thread that it was business owners that went to City Hall and stopped it, and I think you might have been there.
Oh, I was there,
but
yeah.
I only went to the second meeting, but that room was full, and it wasn't just full of business owners. It was normal residents like yourself and myself, if I could be so bold to call myself normal, all right, who said no to destroying Washington Street, to making it unsafe by putting in concrete barriers. Because it wouldn't, if you had traffic on the avenue and then, God forbid, the police or the ambulance or something need to get by, there's no space to pull over if you extend the streetscape, which that essentially does with concrete barriers. And this isn't some provincial town, out in the suburbs. This is an urban area, and
Right.
these people don't get it.
I actually do think bike lanes are a good thing sort of generically. My feeling has more to do with the fact that we already spent $20 million on Washington Street. It was a complete fiasco. We do have some budgetary issues now, and to go dump, I don't know how many more thousands or even millions to redo it again when we should have other priorities. Sort of near and dear to my heart is our rent control office is reduced to one person right now who can't possibly keep up with the things that are going on with regard to, the eviction moratorium is about to end. A lot of tenants are going to need help. So, talk to me about bike lanes later. And for the bike folks who continuously sort of demand it, I've said to them, why don't you try having a conversation with people who oppose it than like yelling at the people who oppose it, and maybe we'll get somewhere.
Well, that's kind of the attitude that this administration has inculcated in its supporters. If you disagree with us, you're the end of the world. It's not quite at the level
the
of
enemy
national
of the people,
politics
yeah.
where it's like you're a bigot if you disagree, but it's like, how could you be against bike lanes? Do you want children to die? It's all hyperbole all the time. No one wants anyone to get hurt. No one wants anyone to die. And then, it's like you're talking about with the rent control. Ideologically, where I stand on people's personal property rights. But if it's something that the city is doing, if it's something that the administration says it's a priority, which it always says it is, it doesn't seem like it really is.
Well, it's definitely not, and it's not just them. It's for decades. It's a great, protecting people in their homes. It's a great talking point, but action is a completely different thing. I don't think this administration opposes tenant protections, but there are, louder voices closer to the administration that are, saying we need bike lanes, we need more parks, we need more whatever. And those are, sort of quality of life issues, but, whose quality of life and who's going to be here? So anyway, we could go on and on for at least minutes more, if not hours, but I think we're sort of running out of time here, Josh. So, I know we just sort of dipped our toe in the water. Maybe a future session, Peter will let me host it again.
So in the future, we'll be hijacking the show. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Peter Biancamano back with you. Make sure you watch us on cable access every Sunday and Monday at 9 a.m. Optimum Channel 18, FIOS Channel 46, and COMCAST Channel 190. And also, every Sunday, 9:30 a.m., we post our new episode and our segments, our individual segments, on our YouTube page. You're not going to want to miss it. Please subscribe to our channel there. We'll see you there. Peter Biancamano, your hostess with the mostest of the Post with Peter B. Folks, we have reached our 2-year anniversary on next week's show. You're not going to want to miss it. We're going back to our original graphics. It's going to be the Pulse going retro, baby. Original graphics, original theme song, and even some of our original guests who are on our very first show. You're not going to want to miss it. I couldn't be any more proud of where we've come from. Tune in next week for the Pulse's 2-year anniversary. Welcome back to the Postal Peter B. I'm your host, Peter Biancamano, and joining us for our Places with Peter B segment, and again, we are going to South Jersey, all the way south of to Freehold, and I know you love when I say that, is Ashley Rollo of @AshleyLaurenRollo on Instagram. Ashley, how are you?
I was better until you said that I lived in South Jersey.
There's no Central Jersey.
There is a Central
this
Jersey.
conversation.
I live in Central Jersey.
It is south or north?
Okay.
I mean...
You're right.
Oh,
You're right.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, did I roll my eyes out loud
School
again?
starting now, and she's getting like, yeah, you definitely rolled your eyes there. That's okay. We're going to talk about food, which makes us both happy.
I love
right?
food.
And the restaurant we're going to cover this week, and again, we're going out of Hudson County, and why not venture to South Jersey and try the restaurants down in Monmouth County, which is of course in Freehold, and that's Solo Trattoria, which is located at 7 South Street in Freehold, as I mentioned. Now, in a previous episode, we were talking about Federici's. And Federici's is on Main Street, and I asked you, is that the main avenue in Freehold? And you said yes, that's where all the businesses are. Solo Trattoria is on South Street. Are there many businesses there? Is it off the beaten path?
It's around the corner from Main Street. Actually, South Street and Main Street intersect. Solo is down maybe 2 or 3 shops in from Main Street. But it's cute because it's quiet and there's plenty of parking for them, so it kind of works out.
So it kind of works out. Okay, yeah. I like that. Now, Solo Trattoria, of course. I mean, when I look at that, it just means an only trattoria, which of course is an Italian restaurant in Italy. So that's the translation. I'm just bringing out my Italian in case you haven't noticed. There you go.
Yes, you.
But. We were talking before the segment aired here, and you said that it's more of an upscale type of restaurant. So I can't show up in a t-shirt and shorts there. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, you could. I wouldn't recommend it. Like a nice polo, some nice pants might be an idea that you want to try out once in a while.
Because the camera doesn't go that low, but I usually tend not to wear pants on air. I mean, but it's hot in here.
It is. It's definitely very hot in here, but I'm wearing
cool.
pants.
Yeah. Okay, she's toughing it out, and I'm not. That's fair enough. Totally fair enough. All right, Solo Trattoria. Talk to me about their menu. Appetizers, entrees. What's your go-to over there?
Oof. Actually, I usually go with what the server recommends because they change their menu, their specials daily. And I tend to go with whatever they said. They have this, it's burrata, and then it's wrapped in zucchini.
What?
So good.
A burrata wrapped in zucchini.
Yeah, you wouldn't think that it would sound like something that goes together, but when I tell you it'll change your world, it will.
It just changed my world upside down.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You never would think of the two of those together like that.
All right, and it's strictly an Italian restaurant, I'm assuming, correct?
Yes.
Entrees. You were also saying that they put these, these type of twists on their entrees, correct?
Yes. So
talk to me.
So they have your traditional, the shrimp. They have, the fillets. They have everything like that you can mix with the pasta. But every so often you'll get lucky. One of my favorite specials that they had was the wild boar ragu, and I'm a sucker for a good ragu sauce. And a ragu isn't like the kind in the jar. It's a very meaty.
It's a meat sauce, right?
Rich
exactly.
sauce, and it's very heavy. And I get it with the rigatoni, and it's just the flavors that they put together in that are it's out of this world.
And it's made with boar.
Yeah, wild boar. You don't see too many places, especially like in Monmouth County, that's actually serving wild boar and incorporating it into a traditional Italian dish like that.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay. And like you said, they have their normal meats and their fish dishes and things like that. So the menu is expansive, let's just say.
Yes, it's definitely an expansive menu. The one thing that I really like about this place is that it's authentic in the way where they pride themselves on the desserts, that they put their heart and soul into it. They make their homemade biscotti. They have the affogato, which for those of you who are not familiar with it, affogato is like a gelato or ice cream with espresso poured over it, and it's so good.
Yeah, the affogato, yeah, absolutely. And, oh my God, you're making me hungry. Now, Solo Trattoria, because it's an upscale type of restaurant, I'm sure they were hurt during COVID times. And, one would say that any type of restaurant of this caliber, let's just say, usually doesn't have much outdoor seating. Do they?
They had a couple of tables because the section of the street that they're on for South Street, it's very narrow, so you couldn't go 2 tables wide. So they actually had a couple of tables outside that went down 2 or 3 storefronts, so they can have a couple of people out there. But you know, you kind of feel for the restaurants like that because their food is so good, and it's just luck of the draw with having the sidewalk space to allow more people to come and enjoy their food.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's kind of sad. But and you don't know how much a restaurant like that can rely on takeout. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, but I'm sure. Look, you know what? Indoor seating is, of course, at 25% capacity, according to Governor Murphy, and if you go there for takeout, I'm sure the food is just as good as eating.
Oh, I've never had their takeout food, but I could totally see that it would be just as good. You just like going there because it's a very romantic spot. It's very, you know, I don't know how to put it. It's like you're going not back in time to Italy, but it's like you're in the city. It's got like that city vibe to it. It's got the cloth table. It's got the nice napkins. You know, the waiters are very professional there. Everybody's nicely dressed. And, you know, kind of, it feels like you live out of Monmouth County for a little bit.
So you took the words right out of my mouth. A very good date night spot.
Definitely a great date night spot. If you're looking for something close by and you don't want to go to Manhattan, but you still want like a romantic feel, I highly recommend going to Solo.
Solo Trattoria, why not? I mean, goodness. And, you know, they're not going to sing the song, Yo solo mi. Was that bad? Was that bad? I mean, I said I wasn't going to do it, but I did it, folks.
I'm hoping the audio cut out for the viewers for that part.
I tell you.
And Greg's shaking his head like, oh,
I know,
audio
our
dropped out.
videographer/editor was like, just took off his headphones, he slammed them down. Apparently my voice pierced his ears and all that good stuff. That wasn't good.
I'm not going to make fun of you on television.
But I tell you what is good, and that's Solo Trattoria. So get there because they, I'm sure, struggled through the pandemic like most restaurants did, unfortunately, in our great state of New Jersey. For all you Hudson County people, Freehold is not that far. I was there a few weeks ago trying out a restaurant down there, and it's well worth the drive, right?
Yes, and you can also check out the mall, too, because we have a mall down there. You can go
But New
get
Jersey,
dinner.
there's a mall on every corner. Can we stop here? But South Jersey, there's a lot more, so I could
There's
see
a lot. We have a lot of malls there.
And I'm glad that you finally considered Freehold, South Jersey.
He caught me. I walked into that one.
Totally did. I opened the door and
I
you
just like walked right through.
And you walked through. Let me tell you.
Yes.
So now this is obviously, you know, one more thing about Solo Trattoria because we have some time left here. This is obviously, like you said, an upscale restaurant, and I'm sure they do accept credit cards and all that good stuff.
Yes.
So, but people should be aware that, you know, this is going to be a little pricier than a normal restaurant
Yes,
would be.
definitely
in Freehold.
pricier than a normal place you would find in Freehold, but like I said, it is worth it. The service is impeccable. Everybody's so friendly there and polite. I don't know if they train their service or what, but everyone is so properly mannered. They know what sides to put the forks on and where to pass the dishes, and it's just they're great. They're all great there.
It's service with a smile, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
And with professionalism. I mean, you know, by the way, how crazy is it that we can't even say that service is professional anymore? But anyway, different story for a different time.
Totally different time.
Exactly. Anyway, Ashley Rollo, please follow her at Ashley Lauren Rollo on Instagram. Thanks for joining us. We'd love to have you back soon.
Awesome. I'd love to come back.
I will. Oh, yeah. You know what? Now you will, from South Jersey. Anyway, folks, thank you for joining us this week. I'm your host, Peter Biancavano. Join us next week for the Pulse on everything you need to know. Hope you have a great week, everybody. Take care.
The Pulse with Peter B. is a proud partner of Eyes on NJ.